So without further ado, let's get to our first question. This is actually two questions rolled into one. Julian asks, if you have previously reached your full transfer balance cap, but now you are well below the 1.9 million, can you undertake the bring forward rule and make a non-concessional contribution of 360,000? And Annette asks a similar point, is it possible to use a recontribution strategy, i.e. non-concessional contribution, if your super balance is higher than 1.9 million? Over to you, Garth.
Thanks, Rob, and welcome everyone. Thank you, Gillian and Annette, for your questions. And to address these questions, to look at the outcomes, we probably need to have a good understanding of the eligibility criteria to make non-concessional contributions and then to use the 3-year bring forward rule. So if we start with the eligibility for non-concessional contributions, there's a total super balance limit rule that we need to meet. And essentially that requires us to have a total super balance of less than 1.9 million. That's for the current year, so less than the general transfer balance cap. And that is assessed at the prior 30th of June. So to be eligible for a non-concessional cap in the current 25 year, we would need to have a total super balance of no more than 1.9 million at 30 June 2024. Now, if your total super balance is above that, then your non-concessional cap for the current year is zero. So any non-concessional contribution you make will be deemed to be excess and you'll have to pay additional tax. We then have an age test or age limit and work test applied, and essentially that is anyone under age 75 is eligible to make non-concessional contributions regardless of your work status. Now, that age 75 rule allows you to contribute a non-concessional contribution up to 28 days after the end of the month that you turn 75. It just gives you a little bit extra time after your 75th birthday to make that contribution, but just don't leave it to last minute where possible. Now, that's the criteria for making a non-concessional contribution. Now, the questions talk about, well, what about the bring forward rule? Can we access the bring forward rule, which allows us to contribute up to 3 years worth of non-concessional contributions in the 1 year? So essentially bringing forward the next 2 financial year non-concessional caps. And again, it has an age limit. In order to use that bring forward rule, you need to be under 75, so age 74, at any time during the financial year. So for 1 day of the financial year, you need to be no older than 74. So under 75 at any time in the financial year. And that allows you access to the 3-year rule. So as I sort of summarize that, you must be under age 75 for at least 1 day during that first year. It doesn't matter if you're sort of 76 or 77 in the next 2 years. If you trigger the bring forward rule in the current year and use your whole, say, 330,000, it doesn't matter that it relates to next year or the year after when you're not under 75. The age test is applied when you're making the contribution. That's in this first year. Now, if you trigger the bring forward rule in the current 2024-25 financial year, and you then turn 76 or 75 next year, you can't make any contributions next year. Does that make sense? You've got to be under 75 for at least 1 day during the trigger year, and then you need to think about the age test for contributions after that. The other rule to be aware of is you can't enter a bring forward arrangement. You can't use a 3-year bring forward rule if you're already within an active bring forward period. So if you've exceeded the non-concessional cap in the last year or two, you're already in a 3-year period. You can't trigger a new one. You've got to wait for that 3-year period, that active period, to come to an end. And the last criteria for the bring forward rule, again, is the total super balance. It's the less than 1.9 million or less than the general transfer balance cap assessed at the prior 30th of June. That's the eligibility to make the contribution. Now, if you're looking to make a larger a larger non-concessional contribution using the bring forward rule, you need to think about your total super balance and how many of those next 2 years, those bring forward years, you currently have access to. Let me take you through an example. So if your total super balance at the end of last year, so 30th of June 2024, was under 1.66 million, and you meet the age test requirements that we said before, and you're not in a current bring forward rule arrangement, you can make up to 3 years full use of the bring forward rule, the 360,000. If your total super balance at 30th of June is between 1.66 and 1.78, you only have access to 2 years of that bring forward rule. And you'll see there that what it's really doing is it's limiting how many years you can access up to that $1.9 million cap. So if you've got 1.9 million or more, you can't obviously make non-concessional contributions. And if you've got between 1.78 and 1.9 million, you can't access more than the 1 year cap, the 120 as it says there. So that's the assessment of how much of the next 2 years you can bring forward. This slide here on the left-hand side shows you the current year, 2024, 2025, and the right-hand side shows you from 1 July this year. Now, just to be clear here, the contribution caps themselves don't increase from 1 July this year, but the general transfer balance cap is going from 1.9 to 2 million from 1 July. It's based on different criteria for when it gets indexed. So you'll see on the right-hand side that more people will be able to make more non-concessional contributions from 1 July 2025, the next financial year, because that $2 million general transfer balance cap there is above the 1.9 that it is today. So that's the issues that we need to think about around non-concessional contributions and bring forward. Now, importantly, if you trigger the bring forward rule in the current year and you don't use up the entire 360,000, you've got to think about whether you'll be able to make non-concessional contributions using up the balance in the next 2 years based on your total super balance. Let me give you an example. Let's just say that my total super balance at 30th of June last year was 1.6 million. I'm allowed to make non-concessional contributions and I'm allowed to access that bring forward rule based on my total super balance last year. Let's just say I put in $200,000 this year, triggering my bring forward rule. I've still got the remainder of that. I've got the 360 of the cap, less what I put in the 200. I've got 160,000 left over, which I can contribute next year or the year after. But I can only do that if my total super balance is below that $1.9 million as at 30th of June this year. You see what I mean here? You've got to think about the total super balance at the end of the year and its eligibility to make contributions next year. Just because I've triggered the bring forward rule doesn't automatically allow me to use the remainder of any unused amount in the following years. I've still got to be within that general transfer cap limit. Also, when you trigger a bring forward rule period or trigger that 3 years, the cap that applies in that year is locked in. So currently it's the 120 or the 360. Let's just say that in 2 years' time, the non-concessional cap gets indexed. You don't get any of that indexation. You're locked in during that 3 year period. I'd like to get your head rounds there. Jump onto the SuperGuide website. There's a good guide on non-concessional super contributions, and it talks about the bring forward rule, and it talks about what can be done and the criteria around that.